the Mayor for the City of Tshwane, that is Cilliers Brink. And Mayor, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sure you heard the tail end of that conversation with the Deputy Health Minister. We have 15 people dead. We have 34 confirmed cases of cholera in hospital. Clearly it spreads really, really quickly. I wonder if you can give us an update on which tap water are you concerned about? We know that the city issued a directive as a precaution over the weekend, do not drink the tap water in Hammanskraal. The Deputy Minister saying tap water comes from 3 different sources. The MMC for utilities earlier in the city saying timber's fine. Can you confirm what's fine, what's not fine? What do you know at this stage about the quality of tap water?
Good evening, Sally. It's good to be with you. Those 3 suppliers of water to the area is Moratele Water, which is a national government entity, Rand Water, another national government entity, and then the Temba water purification plant of the city of Tshwane. What the MMC responsible for water said earlier is that tests have been conducted. Those tests were done on Saturday. On the Temba water supply area, various points were tested, schools, reservoirs, and so forth, various sources of water which would indicate whether the tap water is contaminated by cholera. And a few hours ago, the city received the lab tests that show that there is no cholera or E. coli contamination of the water supply. Sally, that does not mean that this water suddenly becomes safe for consumption. It's not only at the weekend that the city of Tshwane said that folks should not use this water for drinking or cooking. It's been for a number of years that warning has been issued. Water tankers are supplied to the affected areas. So folks must please continue in that area that is supplied by the Temba purification plant to prefer water tankers, the water supplied by water tankers, and then to treat the water as the Deputy Minister explained. But it is very important for us health authorities, including Gauteng Provincial Government, to determine the source of the cholera outbreak, because if we jump to conclusions and stop looking at the actual source, we won't be able to contain the situation properly.
Yeah, so of course there is a chance it's not in the tap water at all, and this was passed from person to person, and perhaps the first person who got it was swimming in a river, for example. But as you say, we simply don't know. So even though Temba seems clear for cholera, you would say continue to boil your water in this area?
Absolutely, and that's why water tankers are provided in the area. We know that the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant that releases water into natural water streams that then get purified at Temba, that plant is dysfunctional. Serious capital upgrades are needed at that plant. I've described it before as a stain on the conscience of the city of Tshwane, various administrations. But the point is, at present, Temba does not seem to be the source. Of course, we await the NICD tests. We're doing further tests, but the important point is to continue casting the net widely to determine where exactly this cholera comes from.
I mean, the truth of the water in Hammanskraal is that it has been, I think, nearly 20 years of problems, and it seems no matter which administration is in charge of the city, it just doesn't seem to be solved ever. When you look at this problem, what do you think is at the heart of the reason why this problem has not yet been dealt with?
So indications are as far back as 2004, there was reason to believe that the plant was reaching the end of its capacity. It's being overloaded. The same warnings were given in 2008. There was a dispute started with national government about the quality of the effluent from Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant in 2011. The point is that the plant is organically and hydraulically overloaded. The area has grown significantly in the space of time that I've just described. Unfortunately, attempts to upgrade the plant have been delayed by contractual issues. In 2020, a supplier or a contractor was appointed to upgrade the facility, the plant. That work was completed to the point of, I think, 60% before the contractor walked off site. There was also indications of irregularity with that appointment. But Sally, even if we can complete that first phase, the second phase is going to cost the city 2.5 billion rand, according to our indications. That is the value of the entire capital budget of the city. And so I think the delays have also been because the scope of the work outstretches the city's capacity. We've reached the point where I've said to the Minister of Water last week, before this disaster even struck us, that the city of Tshwane does not have the capacity to do the upgrades at Rooiwal ourselves. We want to cooperate with national government and the private sector and explore all possible options, because if we are going to rely on our own resources, our own broken supply chain management system, it's just going to be taking too long to address the issue at Rooiwal.
So a little earlier today, and I think we've got the overlay, if we can just play it while we're chatting, you arrived, I think, at Jubilee Hospital where these 15 people had died, and we've got footage of local residents basically shooing you away. We can't actually play what they were saying because they were swearing and condemning you, saying this is the first time you visited Hammanskraal now that people have died. Yeah, you can see that gentleman, and there were a number of other people, and the shot eventually pans to the right, and I think it's you sitting there in the white BMW. Clearly people are angry, and I wonder how you felt sitting in that car, realizing that the people of Hammanskraal are angry but also very much afraid. What did you think in those moments in that car?
Oh, Sally, let's just be clear. The 20 people that blocked my access to Jubilee and also pushed around some of my staff, that wasn't representative of the community of Hammanskraal. That was an organized political protest, well orchestrated. There was a councillor there who was egging them on. So it was clearly orchestrated for the cameras and an attempt to prevent me from doing my work. Luckily, the MMC for Utilities, Temba Fosi, you mentioned before, as well as the MMC for Health, Rena Marks, who've been at Jubilee since Saturday, were already in the meeting and work went ahead. But of course, we understand the frustration of the community. We understand the pain, and we can only express condolences with those who have lost lives. But at the same time, it is very important that we actually get to the cause of this, and that we don't play political games. I think the people of Temba and Hammanskraal would welcome any initiative for leaders to take responsibility, to attend to the situation, to find out what's going on. This was simply an attempt to block me from doing my work and to score some points against me.
The bottom line, though, is that while the ANC has had time in power in Tshwane, so has the DA for quite a long time. My colleague, Masego Ratlaga, and I don't know if we have time to play it. I don't think we do have time to play it, but she spoke. Okay, let's play it. It's Solly Mzimanga, of course, who's a former mayor, former DA mayor, and she was taking him on about the fact that over the years this problem has just not been solved. Let's take a listen.
We're not exonerating ourselves. I am saying to you, this is a multi-billion rand contract. Even Tshwane doesn't even have that money to deal with. This is requiring a national intervention in terms of being able to then provide either surety for the project to commence, or to actually then be able to then fund that particular project. It's not something that Tshwane will have. As I said, a minimum of 4 billion rand. Tshwane has a capital expenditure of only 2.3, 2.4, or 2.7 at the most billion rand a year. So even if Tshwane does nothing but put money towards this project, it will not be able to be done in a year or two. But if we are able to then get the national government, even at the provincial level, to come in on board, either to stand in as surety for Tshwane to go out into the private market and be able to then fund this project through a public-private partnership, we should then be able to do this. The plans are already there. The turnaround strategy is already there. What is needed at this point in time is to make sure that, there is resources to then put this in place. So that's where we are right now. So we're not standing, putting our hands up in the air and saying there's nothing that can be done. There is something that can be done, a lot that can be done. It's actually something that has already been done. But unfortunately, the Rooiwal plant, which is the supplier of the majority of the water that flows to the Ntemba until such time as it's upgraded and actually then maintained properly. It's not going to then assist the quality of the water in Hammanskraal.
Precisely to go after those people who are responsible for all of this. I think one of the things that led us to the Commission of Inquiry was because there was just a whitewash process that was embarked upon at the time by the Commission, which I believe that did not do justice to the issue of water in Hammanskraal. And unfortunately, obviously it's greed. It's people who are pocketing out of the crisis in Hammanskraal and are making money out of it. Unfortunately, it is one that's going to persist until we find ourselves in a space where we have loyal South Africans who are patriotic and are going to fight for the underdog. And for as long as we have leaders who are about self-service, we are going to continue to have these problems that we are having. And for as long as we are going to have a government like the one we have in Tshwane of the DA that doesn't care about the plight of black people in townships, we are going to still have these problems such as the ones we see in Hammanskraal.
All right, so just a bit of context. We played two bites back to back. Of course, the first bite was from Salim Zimang, who said similar to what you said about Rooiwal, and that we actually need now to work together with national government. But then in the end, you heard there Abel Tau, who formerly from ASA, and of course has been in leadership in the city, taking a swipe at the Democratic Alliance. Do you think he's justified? Do you think that everyone has to carry the can in some way at a political level for what's not working at Hammanskraal?
Yeah, so Abel Tau was in fact the member of the Mayoral Committee responsible for water during a critical period of time in the coalition government, including when an irregular tender was awarded. So if anybody knows about corruption or irregularity and can assist the authorities in investigating it, I would welcome him to do so. But sadly, the broader point is that successive administrations, whether ANC, DA or coalition, have in fact made serious mistakes in respect of Rooiwal, and the point is now to move on and to do something differently from what has been done before. Before, the city has tried to solve this problem with our own capital budget, and whatever your estimation of the upgrade costs, as I mentioned, going to consume the entirety of our capital budget. That is not within our resources. We're going to have to look at things that haven't been tried before. And that's why I met with the Minister of Water last week, even before this crisis broke. Yeah. I said to him that whatever differences we might have had, it's now time to cooperate and see what we can do together to solve the issue for the people of Hammanskraal and Ntemba.
All right, and indeed, thank you for your time, Mayor Cilliers Brink from the city of Tshwane. And really what he's saying there is now the time for leadership. It is not the time for political squabbles. And he has reached out to the national government on water to try and resolve what is going on in Hammanskraal.